So a few weeks ago I did a reel about upcycling projects because I need new clothes, and anyone who knows me knows I like something a bit different, a bit funky. So things have started arriving for the first project. Ties. There's 200 ties in this bale. I've already had one bale of these. So let's get these sorted and let's see what we can do with them. So I ordered these, from a guy called Danny, the tie guy. Danny 123789, thank you so much. On Vinted. This is amazing. There's about 200 ties in here, like I've said. This guy, he obviously gets ties. Some he'll sell on as individual ties. And then anything else, he bales up and you can buy them in bulk. For quite a reasonable price. So yeah, and these ties are great because I mean I've already spotted a cracker in here. Look at this. This one. Bugs Bunny. That's amazing. How cool is that? So these ties, obviously, they'll need a wash and cleaning up. But yeah, let's sort out the polyesters from the silk so I can get them washed. And then we've got to start taking them to pieces. So I'm working my way through all these ties, and I've come across this. See, I'm making piles of polyester and silk, but I came across Trevira fibre. Well, I googled it. Turns out it's actually a fireproof polyester. So there you go. I didn't know that. Has anyone else heard of Trevira fibre? But yeah, pretty cool. I've got another one here. Terraline polyester fibre. This must be when polyester was first kind of coming out and we're getting all these funky brand names. So actually it's all sorted. Polyester and silk. There's a lot of silk in this bundle, actually. I'm surprised. I have had a bundle sent to me before by Danny, and that was more polyester than the silk. But that's fine. I've separated them because I'll do different projects with different fibres, just because of the nature of how you have to handle the silk and how you handle the polyester. So let's get all these washed. So that's all the polyester ties washed. Now for the silk ones. So for the first upcycling project, I'm using all the polyester ties and I'm fastening together by zigzagging all the edges together. So I'm buttressing the ties together and then running a zigzag stitch along them to create larger panels that I'll then cut my pattern pieces from. So for my first tie project, I'm making myself some dungarees. Everybody knows me for my dungarees, my crazy dungarees. So I've stitched these ties together. I want them at a little bit of an angle through the pattern. But let's get cutting this bodice. So that's the two pieces for the bodice cut. Now I need to start looking at the legs. I've stitched up a bundle of these. Each one of these panels contains 8 ties. I've got 6.5 panels roughly there. I'm going to start sorting out for putting the pattern pieces together so we get the length, and then we're going to get these pattern pieces cut. Now I've already done one leg, this is the other leg, and I've also done the bodice just so I could get a feel of how I was going to put this together. But basically what I'm doing, I'm getting a piece, I'm pinning it under where it's going to fit. So I'm going to put this piece sort of here. I'll pin that in place. I'll trim the excess off, and then I'll take the next piece and figure out what diagonal we need that to be on. So as you can see, I've pinned and trimmed the top piece, and then what I've done is I've taken this piece, taken the top ends of the ties off, laid it underneath, so I know roughly I need to stitch along this line, and then this will go over the top, and then I've just trimmed it down to roughly where I need it to be on here. I'm going to move this over a touch because we need a bit more of the seam this way, so it'll be like that. So I now know to stitch this in place, I need this to be here. So now we go over to the sewing machine. So now we've got the fabric piece put together and the pattern pinned on, we're going to cut it out, and then we can have a real good look and see how this panel's come out. One thing you'll notice when I'm cutting this out, I'm not leaving a seam allowance, and the reason is it's simply for how I'm constructing this garment. I don't need to leave a seam allowance. I'm not doing folded over seams. What I'm doing, because of how reinforced the ties and everything are, I am butting the seams up against each other and then putting a zigzag stitch, a tight zigzag stitch down along the seams to hold the garments together. So there we are, that's one pattern piece cut. Like I say, I've already done the bodice and the other leg to this. I now need to do the back pieces of this garment. So now I've got all the pattern pieces cut, I actually need to stitch back along the edges of these ties on the inside, because as you can see they've got a fold on the back, and some of these folds, as I've cut them, they've come a little bit unstitched, so I want to get them all secured in place. So now I've got all the pattern pieces cut and ready to go, we've got to start putting this garment together. So I'm going to start off by putting the pockets in. So the pocket pieces I've literally just cut out of some of the silk tie pieces that I've got. So I've unstitched the ties, ironed them, stitched the pieces together. And we're just going to clip these into here and get them sewn on. So now I've got all the pieces stitched together, the pattern pieces together, there's a few additional steps I need to do for this garment, because I've come to realise we can't hem this the same as we would normal clothing because of the thickness of it. At the end of the day, it's almost like a quilt. So I need to cut the legs to length that I want them to be finished at, because then I'm going to have to bias round all these raw edges. So the underarm areas and along the back of the garment will need to be biased. So I need to just double check the measurements for all these parts to see if anything needs to be trimmed off before I start binding and before I add all the straps and everything. So I've got the item all trimmed up. Now I need to cut the ties that I'm going to use for the straps to length. I also need to be aware of the little bit of stretch these have in them, and then I need to start selecting ties to make bias tape out of. So our bias tape is made, our straps are made. Let's get this together. So the first project in the tie collection is done. Are you ready for this? Ta-da! A set of dungarees. Has to be done. My signature garment. Everybody knows me and my dungarees. But these are definitely cold weather dungarees. These are thick. These are warm. It's all the polyester ties stitched together. Okay, so they still have the lining and everything in them, so they're really quite thick. 70 ties altogether in this make, roughly 3,000 meters of thread, just because of how I've zigzag stitched and buttressed up all the tie pieces. But yeah, overall I'm really pleased with how they've come out. I'm really pleased with the fit. I will be swapping this strap out because it's a little bit stretchy, this tie, and it doesn't sit nice within the garment as much as this one does. I've used very simple press stud fastenings to hold them in place. There's a lot of give, you know, I can move about in them fine. So yeah, that's one project down. I'm not sure how many more to do because there's 330 ties. And like I say, this challenge is all about, you know, upcycling ties with the minimum waste. I hope you like this video. If you've got any questions, drop me a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Subscribe. 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 Subscribe.